In this episode, I'm going to be talking about a few things that make people uncomfortable and a few things that I wish I'd learned sooner. This is Almost 30. The older you get, the easier it is to fall into that trap of having a rigid mindset. What that means is that you don't really accept the way that other people live their lives, the way that they think. You're not really self-aware of the fact that there are differences between people because of our lived experiences. However, I think it's really good to spend some time in other people's thoughts and really see the way that people live their lives. I mean, it's great for growth, so why not just give it a try? The first thing I want to mention is unconventional thinking. Once in a while, we meet someone who has a very novel way of thinking about things, and it might catch you by surprise, especially if you're both working on a problem and you have your way that you want to solve this problem. You've seen it applied a million times, but now you're with someone who has this completely new way to solve it, and you're not sure if it'll work or not, mostly because you have faith in the process that you've already been through, but not because you're actually looking at the problem. And that's the thing about unconventional thinking. We never really want to accept the way that someone else is thinking because we're not really thinking about how their way of thinking helps them navigate their world. We're not thinking about how that unconventional thinking could bring about other new ideas. We like to live in the comfort of knowing how a process is going to go because we've seen it a million times, but we've also seen things fail because we do the same thing every single time, and eventually the environment changes and you need to change with it. So unconventional thinking is one of those things that becomes very scary when you first see it, but it's not something that we shouldn't embrace. I think that once in a while we should force ourselves to have some sort of unconventional thought or do something that's a little bit outside of our comfort zone. Think in ways that we never thought we would think. Question people who think differently and really dig into why they're thinking those specific things. Start to understand them and learn about the person and the situation and what they're saying, and not just judge as soon as you hear them thinking a different thought. Unconventional thinking has its pros and cons, but for the most part, it doesn't hurt to spend some time understanding why someone is thinking a completely different way to you. Uncertainty. Now, this is something that a lot of people struggle with throughout their lives. When you're 13, you're not sure how your 20s are going to look like. When you're 20, you're not sure how your 30s are going to look like. And it's so strange because we spend all of that time just thinking to the future, wondering what that'll look like instead of actually dealing with the problems now to form a future that we want. And that's why uncertainty is such a strange thing. It comes from the fear of not knowing. And if you're not sure about something, so you spend a lot more time making decisions that you would normally just make right away. And there's no right or wrong in most cases. In most cases, if you have to decide between something, all you have to do is prepare yourself for either consequences. If you choose A and then you get an unfavorable outcome, the best you can do is manage that outcome and not try to control absolutely every single thing that happens along the way because of that fear of uncertainty. The truth. People have a hard time dealing with the truth, especially if it's something that feels like a criticism. If someone is telling us an experience that they're having with us, and they're telling us how they feel about something we did or something we said, maybe we told someone that they look different and they took it in a very difficult way, and they tell you that what you said hurt me. We take that truth and we override it with our intentions, and we say, well, no, I didn't hurt you because this is what I wanted to do. And intention is very different from the truth. The truth is something that happened and something that is shared and a lot of people observed. Regardless of feelings, if someone tells you about the truth of something that happened and they tell you how they felt about that truth, your response shouldn't be to override that truth with how your intentions should matter more. Accept the truth and figure out a way forward. And that's something I'm starting to practice as I'm getting older, and it's very difficult, but I'm learning ways to make it easier, such as looking for the truth, making sure that I'm always prepared to hear anything, whether it's a criticism about me or about the way that I do things or about the things that I say. I'm always ready to just hear that. And it's something that I've tried to exercise over the last 3 years, mostly because I spent a lot of time covering the truth with my intentions, and I noticed that some people were doing it too. So if you're just like me, covering the truth with your intentions, rather just leave your intentions at the door and focus on the impact of what the truth is and how you can move forward. Accountability. Now, this one is tied to the truth and unconventional thinking, and more about making sure that you're in control of everything that is happening. And the funny thing about accountability is that it comes up in situations where we think of blaming people, or we think that someone is to blame for something. And that's not constructive in any way. It doesn't really help solve problems, and it doesn't help you move forward with what you're trying to do. Accountability is so powerful because once you own it in any situation, you can decide how you want to handle it, and you can be in control of how you move things forward. Here's an example. In the country where I live in, South Africa, we get power cuts, which are quite routinely, but there's no exact schedule for when these power cuts happen. Sometimes it feels random, and sometimes they can tell you today that in the next couple of hours there will be a power cut. Now, I had a project that I had to deliver, and because of the power cuts, I was late to delivering that project. Well, that's the way that I framed it to the customer when I had to explain why the project was late. But if I had to be accountable in that situation and look back and think about how I could have framed that better, the truth is that I just didn't plan well for the fact that there are power cuts, which have been happening in the country for many years. So I should have had systems in place that would have kept me working during a power cut and deliver a project on time. Now, that's the thing about accountability. Sometimes you don't see it right away, and sometimes it's very difficult to own the situation and say that this is where I went wrong. It's practicing that, getting that muscle stronger, and really just digging into problems and saying, well, what part did I play in this problem? And how can I actually change things to move it forward? So for me, accountability is a big one, mostly because it's something that I just didn't have growing up. I would blame everyone around me for my situations and my outcomes. And the truth is, if I was just paying more attention to myself, I could have been held more accountable to the things that were happening. And I would have had more control over my outcomes, the way that I felt about things, and just the plans that I had to actually fix the situation. So another thing we're very uncomfortable with is anything outside of our world. The minute we don't understand anything, that's where we start to feel uncomfortable, and that's when we start to feel like we are being threatened in some way, or that we just don't belong. And that's not true. The world is full of so many different people, places, cultures, languages, just all these things that make us unique when they happen in combination. And it doesn't make sense that the minute we step outside of our world, the first thing we have is this feeling of discomfort, when we could easily have a feeling of curiosity and walk into a situation without feeling like we need to judge things and put things in order and rearrange everything so that it fits our worldview. I don't think that's constructive, and I think a better approach is just that curiosity that I mentioned. Because the moment that we're curious, that's when we really start to share things with people. That's when people feel like opening up to us and really letting us into their world. And then we can return the favor later on. And then we have this understanding of each other. So being uncomfortable with the way that other people are in their world, it's something that we can definitely grow with, and something that we can learn to own. And the last thing that people are very uncomfortable with is themselves. Now, a classic example of this is when you want to take a photo of someone and the first thing they say is, "No, please wait, I don't look so good today." But they're forgetting that you're the one asking to take a photo, which means that to some degree, you think that they look good, or at least good enough for a photo. It's so strange that that thought enters our mind when someone wants us to do something. We start to doubt ourselves and wonder if we actually belong somewhere, or we wonder if we're good enough for something, or we're in a relationship and we're not sure we're good enough for our partner because we think they're amazing, but we forget that they're still there because they think we're amazing too. We try to avoid this feeling of, hyping yourself up because you might feel like you're vain, but that's not the truth. Everyone needs a confidence booster, and you are the first person who can support yourself, especially if you need to motivate yourself to do something for others, or to do something very important, or to get something done. You are the first line of defense when it comes to your self-confidence, hyping yourself up, feeling accepted. You have to accept yourself first before anyone else can. And it's not just a belief that I share, but a lot of people share it too. We all know someone who just gets along with everyone and doesn't say much about themselves because they feel confident in themselves and they feel very secure. We have people around us who are more advanced in their life, and they seem to be extremely secure in the way that they are and the things that they do. And it's quite admirable. looking at them and seeing how they are in their lives and seeing how comfortable they are and how they never have to worry about anything. I think that's a beautiful thing. I think it's something that we all deserve, especially since we spend the most time in our own skin. We know what we've been through and we know what our life is like. So we have reasons to congratulate ourselves for making it this far every single day when you get up. There's a reason that you exist in this life. And it doesn't have to be this grand purpose, but since you're in control of your situations, you can make that grand purpose something meaningful to you. And that's why I think we win when we're uncomfortable with ourselves. Once we realize what it is that we want to do, once we understand ourselves and get to know ourselves, and then we just take that leap and understand that we can trust ourselves with a lot of things. And even if things don't go well, we can still be the ones to turn it around, because time is all we have. From the day you're born until the day you're out of here, this is your life, and everything that exists in it exists with you. So I think in that discomfort of ourselves, we just need to get to a place where we can get in touch with ourselves and really just start to love ourselves the way that a lot of people we already know do. If you like this episode, I'd like to know from you, what are some uncomfortable things that you're learning about yourself and about the world around you? You can drop them in the comments or message me directly. Either way, I'd love to know, because this learning is kind of fun. So, thank you. And please don't forget to hit like and subscribe. It helps me get a better reach and to get my content to you a lot quicker. Thanks for watching. This is Almost 30.